Welcome to Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire. Welcome to the episode that almost never was. You guys, you are going to get a peeled back version of what it actually has been like the last 27 months. Because I legit, no joke, for fucking real, have worked all day, every day for the last 27 months. And I am currently in the very last week of working all day, every day for 27 months. I started this podcast because when you see somebody who has built a company where you're doing 250 million to $1 billion in annual revenue, they're talking about that backwards from the experience of already having done that. So they're getting interviewed once they have accomplished that goal and sort of harkening back to what it was like. And generally speaking, it's a really romanticized version. How do I know that? Because I've built really large companies before, and it's very easy to like sugarcoat things and not really remember how truly fucking hard it was, how very many times you did not think that you were going to make it. I can't tell you the amount of crying that has happened over the last 27 months. I can't tell you the amount of relief that I'm feeling that December 9th of 2025 is almost here, because that is it. That is the last day of working all day, every day for 27 months. When I say all day, every day, I mean all day, every day, to the extent that like my mom and my Aunt Barb came to Sedona for 3 days, and I probably spent 2.5 hours total with them, even though I was here in town, because I was so fucking busy working. I cannot even possibly express the quantity of stuff that needs to still get finished on a daily basis, or the amount of financial pressure and stress that I have been under for 27 months. And so on this week's episode, I'm giving you a sneak peek and a behind the scenes of what it actually looks like. It's such a cross section of every emotion that I've been trying to record this for the last several hours, as well as I already recorded an episode that is not usable from yesterday. And I just keep crying. And I'm crying from pride. I'm crying from grief. I'm crying because I'm releasing the fact that I was more profoundly heartbroken than I have ever been in my whole life in the last 27 months. I'm crying because I'm finally healing. And I think it's the crying from pride that has gotten to me the most. It is such a different thing to say, I am Andrea motherfucking Lake. I am going to go do this. I am going to 5x my sales every year for 5 years in a row. What I actually said on 7/7 2024 is that I will have made $1 billion in revenue by 7/7 2031. Now, I've hyper accelerated that and set this humongously paced goal of doing 500% increase in annual revenue every single calendar year after that first year of just like shit, where there was barely any increase in the first 10 months. So now that we're truly in the scaling part, it's been so fucking hard. And so sometimes when I come on social media, like I have a friend who is glamorous and beautiful in every conceivable way possible, and she has a lot of content. And I've shared with her, like, girl, I know that you cry on the floor sometimes. I know that you cry on the floor a lot. I know you. I know that you have really fucking hard days and you are not sharing that with your audience. And so it makes what you're doing seem really unattainable. So we're just going to tell you what the last 27 months has really been like for me. And at this point, we're going to do it in a pretty quick, probably pretty short episode, because I keep recording and re-recording, and I must get this over to my office in order for them to process it and post this video on time. This 27 months has been triumph after triumph and failure after failure, and being hard on myself to a degree that I couldn't even articulate if I tried. When I say all day, every day, that is what I mean. Longtime listeners of the pod who saw the Taylor Swift episode heard about my devastating food-borne multiple 5-day sickness where I also had vertigo, literal vertigo. So I couldn't really even read without getting nauseous for at least 3 of those days, but I would still read. Whenever my eyes were open, I would read the emails and respond to the texts. I did not take a single day off during the 5 days of devastating food poisoning where like I truly thought there was a chance I would die. It truly feels like the closest to death that I ever was. And I still was just like, Cool, cool. Well, what else am I going to do while I am bedridden? And the reason that I did 27 months was because when I first started my first, like, sort of grown up company, I had already done Rhythm Sticks for 4 or 5 years at this point, and Rhythm Sticks paid for my life, but it was never going to be like a banger multi-million-dollar company. And then I started anti-establishment clothing, which did do $1 million in revenue. Then I started Delinquent Distribution, which ended up, doing all the shirts in Hot Topic and Mr. Rags and Miller's Outpost and all these chain stores, as well as ended up getting the sales rights on Minecraft, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, The Walking Dead, etc. I worked every day for 7 years in a row. When I started that company, I took no days off. But my life did not feel out of balance when I was doing that because I fucking loved what I was doing. And I knew that my alternative was to go work for somebody else's company to chase somebody else's dream. So I had a couple of different options when I woke up that profoundly, deeply in debt. And the only one that made sense to me was not just to rebuild everything, but to create a huge vision for what I could create, right? I was just about to turn 50. I don't have that many years left on earth. And I'm like, let me just do the most. Let me do as much as I can and see what I can accomplish over the course of the next 27 months. And I now have a stable company. It is not yet a truly thriving company, but it will be in just like the twist of a knob. Right now, we're on this insane precipice point that is obnoxious and has been going on for months. We're like, we'll have a month where we do like 200 grand. And I'm like, oh, thank God, thank God. That's where that 2.4 million in annual revenue number comes from. But then last month was Black Friday, and yo, you guys, what the fuck? We did $152,000 in November, even running our concierge Black Friday sale. And I'm like, what? What? What on earth? That is the lowest month that we've had in a long time. And I'm just like, what is happening? We haven't lost any of our clients. They're just not buying as much stuff. So I'm running as fast as I can towards closing like so many new partnerships, so many new deals. I got this insanely fucking awesome idea that I implemented to create like this mastermind group with all of my banger friends that have started $100 million companies plus, and all of my banger friends who are influencers that have like anywhere over 250,000 followers cross platform, who are also affiliates for Sticker Junkie, and connect them to each other in a way that's going to work out super great for me to sell more stickers. So I'm implementing thing after thing after thing after thing after thing after thing after thing that is launching right now. We are just about to launch holographic stickers. We have closed a few Fortune 500s at this point. We're doing tons and tons of client outreach. Finally, like 2 or 3 months ago, my time is segmented mostly to sales outreach. That's almost all that I do with my time and with my energy. And we should start seeing massive, massive results from that in January. But we had this incredibly slow November, which was like, ugh. But then we also just quoted out an order. And the order was ridiculous. I started laughing when I heard the quote. It's for a Fortune 100 client. The quote came in anywhere between $20,200 and $210,000. And I burst out laughing. I'm like, that is quite a range. But I am crossing my fingers and fucking toes that it comes in at like a $70,000 order that will save our December. Traditionally, people don't buy as much stuff in December. And also, it will enable us to buy the next round of equipment that we're purchasing, which is 50 grand, and to place a huge materials order. And then it will free up a bunch of other cash so that we can comfortably afford to pay the holiday bonuses that I've been wanting to pay everyone. But it's insane to me that we're even still touch and go at this 27-month mark. And it's only because I'm a very, very seasoned serial entrepreneur, very, very seasoned CEO, that I know that like I know every single sales thing that we are doing, and all of it is beginning to flip around. And we are, in fact, onboarding way more clients. What's the most crazy for us right now, so I can only imagine the position of other small businesses, is that we have twice as many clients as we had last year at this time. And our Black Friday performed lower than last year's Black Friday. And I'm like, what on earth is happening? And that just means that we are in a retracted recessionary economy. And so instead of having gotten 2 times as many clients this year, we really should have gotten 3 or 4. And the God's honest truth, as I run the assessment on my own last year, is I am so proud of myself for everything that I did in the past year. And also, I could have done more. It's true. I could have done more of the high touch sales stuff that I needed to do, but I was heartbroken, legitimately, actually heartbroken to the point where it was hard for me to get out of bed and function for a lot of this year. And I just am on the other side of it. So, on top of everything else that was going on with rebuilding the company, and I was on this great weight loss journey, and then I was heartbroken, and then I gained back 12 pounds. And then I was like, okay, cool, we got to get this back under control. And it's just been hard. It's been emotionally really tough. There are so many days where I did not want to do what I had to do that day. And the pride that I feel for showing up and doing my best anyway, you can hear in my voice, it makes me want to cry. And I, in fact, have been crying a lot today. And I've said like many times over the years when I did occasionally go on and do somebody's podcast, even though I was usually really private and just talk about business, what defines the difference of the people that make it in business from the people that don't is that you just keep going. If you have something that people actually want, right? Like if you have something, if you have a product or a service or something that people actually need in some way, like for example, stickers, then all you have to do is continue moving forward. Continue meeting with new clients, continue onboarding new clients. And now today I was like, okay, cool. In the next year, because I'm laying out what I'm going to do after December 9th, and what I've already started doing is I'm like, whoa, I need like 4 times as many clients as I think I need. So I'm not just going to try and like double my sales from here. We're literally going for next year 10 million in revenue, and my personal goal is actually 12.25 because of the salaries that I can give to my people when we hit 12.25 in revenue. And now I'm like, okay, cool. I need to immediately shift all of our problems around from being like, how the fuck am I going to juggle this? How am I going to pay for this? What am I going to do next? To how are we going to keep up with production because we have so many orders? So, just on the practical side of dicing that up and actually making that happen, we have a ton of new content that's coming out for Sticker Junkie. We're doing hyper local to San Diego Reels, really reaching out to our local San Diego business community, a lot of whom don't even realize that we're local to San Diego. And if like they need stickers in a pinch real quick, like they can just come over and get them from us. We expanded our affiliate program and signed up a bunch of new, just like banger influencers so that we could get more small and medium-sized businesses that actually do need anywhere from $5 to $100,000 worth of stickers a year. And we're reaching out to a bunch of very aligned with us organizations and growing our businesses with them. So the next year looks bright, but I don't like it when everything seems shiny and happy. Did I drink more than I should have drank this year? Sure did. Smoked too much weed too. I took breaks from it, of course, but the stress, it's almost difficult to articulate the quantity of stress that I've had with the financial pressures of scaling a business when I have completely trashed credit. So, like when I need to buy a couple of new pieces of equipment, which I do right now, I don't have the credit where I can go get a loan for that because my credit is trashed from rebuilding the company. So I have to come up with cash to pay for new equipment and machinery in cash. Now that's fine because then I own the machinery and the equipment outright, which is my preference anyway. But all of it's just hard. All of it's just a little bit harder than it needs to be. And that part still hasn't eased up yet, despite the fact that we have Fortune 100 clients, despite the fact that when I show people the integrations and the backend systems that we've created, we look like $100 million company when you look at the backend integrations, the stuff that you guys can't see on our website that we built internally. Our internal Sticker Junkie people built that within the last 6 months. And it's just totally insane. It's mind bending how good it is. So as I'm seeing all this, I'm like, okay, cool. Our future is completely assured. And Brian and I both think that our projections are correct, that our numbers are going to flip way around in January or February. The stress of it has been almost all consuming. It's really lucky that I can just like take stress and go put it in a box over there and compartmentalize it and just not feel it for a while because otherwise I wouldn't have made it through the last couple of years. I think that I learned that when I have said over and over again in those entrepreneurial calls that I just really am one of the people that just keep going. I've also regained this like insane amount of confidence in myself. I think that I always really presented as a confident person, but because at basically the same time, longtime listeners of the show know I was just recovering from having had a company that was on Oprah that I self financed to the tune of like $750,000 that completely failed. Nobody bought the product after it was on Oprah. That's insane. That doesn't happen. I don't know anybody else that that's happened to. I know a lot of people who had their products on Oprah and it worked out super great for all of them. It did not work out super great for me. I lost my shirt. I was just recovering from that when I started the Winston House, and at the same time I was starting a company also called Mentor Mojo, and one of our C team members was murdered at the same time that I had just been spending an intense amount of money on the Winston House. And simultaneously, I lost the sales rights on all the video gaming contracts. The sales were just taken in-house by the company that I was working with instead of them contracting for me to do their sales. And that was financially devastating. And it happened at the same time that I dated a con artist. So there was this culmination point of just like getting way stripped back with my cash. And that is why I retired, because I'm like, well, I still make enough from Sticker Junkie that I can afford to just like go have a living. And I'm going to write this trading system, which I did, which took 3 years to write. And I'm just going to be a trader. That's just what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to really interact with people much anymore. And I didn't realize how much it had diminished my confidence, everything that had happened. It wasn't until I went back into Sticker Junkie and realized, like, oh shit, I'm a fucking banger CEO. I'm a great leader of a team because one of my superpowers is seeing and identifying and actually, as a boss, caring about what each one of my different employees will thrive doing, will love doing, will do a fantastic job at, and putting them in the right position that they should be in so that they actually can excel, and having the right person for the right job. Right now, there is only one person in my company who is not in the right job, and that's because our sales aren't quite where they need to be. And the moment that they are, Chance will be doing booths full time. Chance is still helping in production through the end of the year, but very soon as we move, he's going to do a build out on the front office of our new office space. And then at that point in time, everybody will be in the right position. And the thing about having a really, really fucking killer team is that people can do multiple different jobs within the company. Even Dana, our night manager, is an extraordinarily talented artist and a really clever slogan writer. In addition to being our lead mechanic, she is uber talented. She was like, oh, we're kind of behind on our back end integrations and all of our back pages that we're building out for our clients. Maybe I could also learn how to do that and do that sometimes at night while Kiana is doing all the technical, keep the machines running job. And so she, in fact, does build out back pages now on top of everything else. And that's because if you just treat people like grown-ups and recognize their brilliance and recognize their capabilities and allow them to just like run and do their best, most people are dying for that. They don't get that in a workplace environment, which we have talked about thoroughly on the show before. And it creates this unstoppable momentum of a team. In addition to that, we implemented a bunch of standing regular meetings. Not a ton, because you don't need to spend a ton of time on that, but I have been shook as I came back into this company and I see the inner workings of other companies. And I see a bunch of companies that we've been interacting with where the C team members do not know what the other C team members are doing at all whatsoever. At all whatsoever, much to their detriment. I've looked in the internal, pull back the curtain on companies that are huge, huge organizations that we've been dealing with where I'm like, this is just not even functional. And your employees on your staff don't know anything about the products that you're trying to sell us, period. And that comes down from the top. So when I came back into the company and I was like, I'm going to really teach every single person in this business about the finances of the company, about how things run, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of employees who, when you do have a $40,000 day, or you do have like a couple $25,000 days in a row, are just like, we're rich. Why aren't we getting paid more? I'm like, nay, my friend. We are still $2.2 million in debt right now because, oh yeah, that $1.84 million in debt, that total went up because my credit is trashed. And because I do have to buy equipment in cash and I do have to come up with that money from somewhere. And so I've been using those short-term revolving Shopify loans, PayPal loans, etc., just to get us through the scaling part without having really strong lines of credit. Now, don't worry. By early spring, we will have amazing credit as a company because we're putting all of the pieces in place to make sure that that happens. But all of it takes time. And so I've learned about myself in the last year that I'm a fucking badass for real. I completely forgot that I was Andrea motherfucking Lake. There was a part of me when I'm like, I am going to make $1 billion in revenue by 7/7 of 2031, that there was a question as to whether or not that was going to happen. And I sounded like a lunatic when I was saying that at first, but I sound a whole lot less crazy now that the first year of actual growth, which was from 9/9/2024 to 9/9/2025, that we actually did do a 482% increase in revenue in that calendar year. Now we are in the second year of growth from 9/9/2025 until 9/9/2026, and we should be at $10 million in revenue by then, which will be another 500% in growth. From there, we will go to 50 million in revenue and 250 million in revenue. I'm going to try and do both of those things each in a single calendar year. But the first time I heard this, I was 12 years old. Tony Robbins said, if you set a goal to make $100 million and you make $80 million, like, are you upset by that? And the answer is, absolutely not. So if things go slightly slower, like I had a goal to do a 500% increase in revenue and we did 482% instead, there was no part of me that was upset by that, and nothing but pride. And as I was in therapy, working my way through just true, actual heartbreak, I was talking to Richard, my mentor slash therapist, who I've known for most of my adult life. And he was like, darling, you're dysphoric. And I'm like, it's true. And he said, that's why you don't want to do your sales outreach. You cannot handle rejection right now. You just have got to fake it for a little while. You just have to put yourself out there. This is the worst accent ever. You're going to be fine. And so I did. I was like, I will just set up meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And guess what? The rejection part is before the meeting happens. It's people, saying some shitty comment about something or wanting something very unrealistic. And then the rejection kind of happens on both sides, because we reject clients also, even in the financial position that we are in. It was not the cheapest option. Like, if that is your only metric, then that's not going to be us. There's a ton of places that have loss leaders where they sell like $9 for 50 stickers. We don't do any of that. That's not going to be the type of even clients that we're fighting for. We're fighting for other businesses who are so excited to have excellent customer service, where we do not outsource our customer service to AI ever. We never, ever, ever will do that, ever. Where you're always talking to a real person, where that real person can go back on the production floor and figure out whether or not we can get you something on time that you really need. Where if your order is like lost in the mail, but your event is in 3 days, we will just go ahead and reprint those and ship them to you and make sure that you actually get them. That's the type of stuff that we offer. I say all the time, you can get good, you can get fast, and you can get cheap, but you can only get two of the three. We are extraordinary and we are really fast. And as a result, we're priced very similarly to the other big players in the space, even though we're not at that $100 million level yet. And we truly anticipate in 2 or 3 years that we will be, because of the way that we service our clients, because the way that we do it makes them tell their friends, like, hey, go to Sticker Junkie, they're rad. And in the midst of all of the strategy and all of the implementation and all of the team training and all of the legal compliance and all of the financial compliance and all of the growth and all of the permitting and all of the everything, even understanding what the best equipment was and negotiating deals in every conceivable way with every conceivable vendor that we're using, I have been dealing with like a very, very lot of those struggle bus moments. And finally, at the end of the year of heartbreak, dealing with true joy again and like really actually just being better from it, and being able to get up and go run my day and truly actually just laugh. Because there was a period of time for the first 6 months of the year or 7 months of the year where I finally went to Brian and Jenny and the rest of my C team just in tears and said, I am in a true mental health crisis. I am experiencing no joy. Things are actually happening with the company that should be making me really happy, humongous wins, and I am not experiencing any joy. And so this is not a journey that I can continue down. And I must start taking some time and working out of Sedona just so that I can recollect myself and be happy again. And I can say at the end of the year that it's actually truly finally worked. It's been harder than I can articulate. I don't think that this is probably the best, most interesting episode, but it's probably the most honest episode. I'm fighting back tears even as I tell you that I had the worst imposter syndrome, that I didn't think my life was even interesting or extraordinary, that I felt like I had stumbled luckily into many things, that I never, ever took any sort of pride in my accomplishments that I had up until 2 years ago, that I never thought that anything that I did was valuable for other people to know, that I just never really got it, that I'm brilliant at business. That when I would say something snarky like, fuck, man, I wouldn't want to compete against me, I meant it, but now I mean it. Fuck, man, I would not want to compete against me. The most shocking thing to me right now, because I know that a lot of my competitors watch this podcast, is that if somebody would have just stepped in and given me a crazy offer like a year ago, like a $20 million to walk away, oh, I would have taken it. I would have had to, because it is so, I had so much work ahead of me, and it would have been the smartest thing that they could do, because now I'm coming in, I'm fresh, I feel mentally healthy again. One of my employees got a speeding ticket and is also getting her personal training certificate, Alex, who is so fantastic. She's a newer member of the team and she is Jenny's best friend. And I said, girl, how much is that speeding ticket? They're so expensive in California. And I said, how about this? Because she got us coming to work on a Sunday because we were behind. And I was like, fuck, man, I feel really terrible that she's going to have to pay for this speeding ticket while she was coming to work on a Sunday. That's terrible. I said, I'll tell you what, I will pay for the speeding ticket and you will give me one-on-one personal training exercise stuff. So everything is starting to come back around and be really happy again. But I don't want any entrepreneur who's not like crushing it to suffer under perfection paralysis, which certainly I don't really, but man, was I hard on myself for not doing more sales outreach in the first part of the year, because I would be in an entirely different financial position right now if I had. But it only just occurred to me on this last time here in Sedona in the last week, where I have just been like super proud and then crying and then super proud and then crying from pride. Honestly, it's a new feeling for me to feel really proud of myself. It's a new thing for me to say, whoa, that's a fucking such a smart idea. I can't believe I thought of that. Now, a lot of the stuff that's like the smartest ideas, I will tell you guys, but I will not tell you guys until we are at $250 million in revenue, because I have so many competitors who watch the show who are so much bigger than I am, that they could just implement something that I say and put millions of dollars behind it and appear as if they got to market first with whatever my new idea is. And so some days when I get new ideas for things and I tell them to my staff, they're like, whoa, that was actually brilliant. I'm like, I know. So I do think this year is going to be so much easier than last year. I am on the straight and narrow, re-losing the weight again. And for the first time in months, I am happy with my life. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of myself. I'm thankful that I have a team. It's because I have a team of people that understand how to actually properly run that company, and a business partner who understands how to properly run a company, that I'm able to comfortably, easily step away when I'm struggling, and for them as well. We don't call it a family because everyone has a family and families are complicated things, but it does have this really cohesive, tight team, true, actual friend feeling. When Jenny was on the podcast last week and she said, how is it that you're just so nice? Because I feel like you're way up here and I'm down here. And I'm like, first of all, you are on my C team. You are on the talking heads. How the fuck do you feel like I am way up here? And also, I don't want anyone in my company to feel like I am way up here and they are way down there. The boxes don't get shipped if someone doesn't ship the boxes. The customer doesn't get the proof if somebody doesn't do those proofs. We don't have a company if we don't have organizational management. We don't have a website if we don't have a head of product. We don't have a banger social media presence without a social media team. We don't have banger marketing campaigns if we don't have very, very talented people creating those campaigns. And so if you are on your own comeback story, Be gentle with yourself. Be as gentle as you can. Be honest with yourself. If you're not doing your best, I was really honest with myself when I wasn't doing my best, and then correct. But don't beat yourself up backwards for shit that you've done. It is just a complete and utter total waste of time. It will not get you to where you're going. Grieve when you have to, but pick yourself back up and keep going. When you don't have enough sales, do 10 times as much sales approach as you think you need to do. That's where we're at right now. Cause I'm like, oh shit. After our Black Friday, because we had done $200,000 in October, I was like, oh, we should do 250 in November. So it was devastating when we had a bad Black Friday. I was like, what? Where is all the money at? So now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm literally doing 4 times as much sales outreach so that we can land those clients. And as soon as we land them, we're doing more. And I'm doing the type of sales outreach. I can't really talk about exactly what we're doing. Incredibly high touch, very warm introductions to very large companies, and incredibly high touch, very warm introductions to small and medium sized companies that do order about $10,000 a year worth of stickers plus, so that I can actually like really comfortably fill the coffers of the company so that we can have the safety net of a padded bank account. So something happened with this litigation. I'm obviously not going to talk about the details of any legal skirmishes that we're in, but I am brilliant at writing legal letters. Oh, I really am. I'm very, very good at it. And I realized that I was obsessed with getting those things exactly right. And that's because it creates this sort of mama bear, very lioness energy of like, I must protect my team. And when that was happening, that isn't the way in which I want to protect my company solely. I need to transmute that and have that same level of energy of like, I must protect my company by getting an outsized number of sales. That's how I have to protect my company. Because right now, every single problem that we have in the company is, in fact, a problem that money can solve. So the only actual problem is that we don't have enough money. So now, as we are sprinting towards additional sales, as I am talking with large company after large company about not just them onboarding them as like an individual client, but about building an integration into their website so that we can seamlessly receive tons of orders from those companies. As we're doing stuff like that, I'm like, that's the type of security that we need. That's where I need to be pulling up my mama bear energy. It's not defending ourselves on something, it's building something so huge that defense is very easy. And that's the part that we're in right now. It's client conversation after client conversation, integration after integration, new product rollout after new product rollout, and making sure that as we roll out these new products and making sure that as we roll out all of our new initiatives, that they are win, 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 and not doing business with anyone that doesn't want to be in a win-win situation. We had a negotiation a couple weeks ago with one of our vendors, and the topic of price came up, and I could see them getting ready to go into a negotiation. And it is a fellow like medium-sized business. They're a much larger company than we are, but they're not the biggest player in the space that they're in. They're a large player. Same with us. And I said, but they're doing a lot more revenue than we are. And I think that he was prepared for a hardcore negotiation because he watches my podcast. And the first thing he said is, well, we're never going to be the cheapest option. And then Brian cut in and said, yeah, us too. And I said, we're not even going to argue with you over price as long as you're competitive with what we would be paying a similar vendor for this similar service. And if it's a little bit more expensive, we already know that it's a little bit more expensive. Your product is better. I looked at your product. It's the best product that's out there. That's why I want to do business with you. And as you have your normal annual increases, as long as they are not insane, we're not going to be pushing back on that with you guys because we understand that you need to make a profit also, that we are not the only ones that need to make a profit. Because at the end of this journey, and even in the middle of this journey, we're going to be an example of like you can actually have a super thriving company where the top team doesn't make more than 7x on base salary what the lowest paid team member makes. That that seems fair to me. And we'll also be an example of a company where we want to do business with all other small, medium-sized, and large companies where everybody is making a great profit. And most of our business is with other small companies that are running to become medium-sized companies and other medium-sized companies that are running to become large companies. Last week on the podcast, when I was talking to Jenny and we were talking about doing a Starbucks run, but I had this revelation right when the Starbucks run came back in, where I was like, oh shit, Starbucks employees are boycotting in some areas for a living wage. And I did not mean to cross that boycott line. Then I also realized, like, fuck, man, why are we going to Starbucks anyway right now? We are in Santee, California, and we need to try every single small coffee shop in Santee and then do on a rotation that we do our coffee runs from our favorite small coffee shops, which we do sometimes. But there's a Starbucks like right by where we are. And so we have been going there. And so I told my staff, like, that's what we're going to do now is just go to all the other local small business coffee shops and infuse our money as much as we can back into other small and medium sized businesses. And we are looking for all kinds of different ways to do that because that is what it takes to have a community again. Otherwise, all of the businesses, which is already happening, the dominant majority of the businesses are going to be owned by private equity companies. And so the longer that I am back in this journey, the more self-reflective that I am about, like, what kind of actual legacy do I want to leave? What kind of actual companies do I want to have built by the time I die? What kind of ethos do I want to help infuse back into entrepreneurship? It used to be so normal for every single employee in a company to win when the company wins. And that has become so rare. And the CEOs and the C team is making the vast dominant majority of the money. And that is fucked up. And we can fix that. It's not even I say this all the time, but I have to say this. It's not even a problem that people are ultra wealthy. It's a problem that they're starving everyone else. If everybody's pay raise had gone up 5x multiple in the last 20 years, then nobody would have a problem with the billionaires. Anyway, that's it for me this week. And I hope you enjoyed the deep dive into it. If you are rebuilding your company right now, my heart is with you. If you are building a company for a first time right now, if you're struggling right now, or if you're thriving right now, my heart is with you on your journey. I know how hard it is. I know how difficult it is to go on social media and look bright and shiny and clever and be funny when you are just like, how the fuck am I going to make payroll this week? I know how that is. And right now, thankfully, we're in a more stable position where we're not exactly like, how the fuck am I going to make payroll this week? But I'm up for a credit application right now for some huge equipment. And I am praying that I don't have to buy it in cash because it's going to put me right back into a cash strapped position if I do. And if I do, I'll figure it out. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for some magic. I'm going to continue to be delusionally optimistic with what happens next. And I'm going to continue to work my fucking face off in the next year, but most certainly not every single day, all day long. I am very excited to just take a weekend like off. When I tell my employees sometimes, like, oh, I just relaxed this weekend, what that means is that I took like 4 to 6 hours and like met my friends for lunch, maybe put together some Legos, took Rico for a walk, and then worked the whole entire rest of the time that I was awake. That is what a day off is to me. I cannot wait until I get a real, actually, do not touch my phone, do not check my sales, do not check my emails, and just take a day off, day off. I am eager and excited for that to come. By the next time you see me, that will in fact have happened because the very last day of the 27 months is actually December 8th. And December 9th of 2025 is the first day of whatever comes after this insane 27 months of all day, every day working on my business. It was necessary. I'm so fucking proud of myself that I've done it. And I'm also really excited to have a little more balance in my life. Although I don't require work-life balance the way that some people do. I really just don't. I would rather be working on my businesses than virtually anything else. But it sure is going to feel nice not to feel guilty about it when I want to take a night and have some wine and build Legos instead of just powering through whatever is next in my business. So until next week, on next week's episode of Andrea Lake 101 Sticker Wars, where you can be sure that you will want to grab your popcorn, grab your wine, and I will come fresh and hot with all the tea.